Hello and welcome. We have reached the 7th round of the HSBC UK National Road Series. This week the riders compete in the Stockton Grand Prix, part of the Stockton Festival of Cycling. This is a race that always proves to be fast and furious. The last round of the series was the famed Bowman Trophy, where the powerhouse Rory Townsend sprinted to take another win. After some great racing in round 6, this is how the series standings look. Matt Holmes has a narrow advantage over James Shaw, and Rory Townsend has moved up into 3rd position. And in the team standings, it's still Canyon DHB on top ahead of Madison Genesis. And in the race for Tour of Britain selection, it's still Canyon DHB on top ahead of Madison Genesis, SwiftCarbon and Team Wiggins LaCall. This year's HSBC UK National Road Series is made up of 10 races across the country. At each round, there are 30 points up for grabs for the winner. The rider with the most points at the end of the series wins the crown. It's as simple as that. The market town of Stockton-on-Tees lies in the northeast of England in County Durham and is home to the Stockton Cycling Festival for the 9th year running. Host venue for the 2016 National Road and Time Trial Championships, Stockton has cycling deep in its veins, but cycling isn't the only kind of training going on around here. In 1825, Stockton was steaming ahead in the transport industry, changing the world with the opening of the first public railway. The line was mainly used to transport coal, but a passenger train operated between Stockton and Darlington, running at a leisurely 10 miles per hour, and relics and celebrations of the town's locomotive heritage can be found all over. But there will be no chugging along this weekend. Stockton's focus will instead be the frantic speeds of the lead-out trains, as this famous race is no stranger to a sprint finish. So let's take a look at the course for today's race. The riders will complete 10 laps of a 13.5 kilometre circuit in the countryside and then 6 laps of a 6.5 kilometre circuit, crossing the finish line each time, with a total distance of 178.6 kilometres or 111 miles.
I think we've got a good chance of doing well and hope to get a couple up there in top 10. Tactics today is just to look after Ollie and myself really, get involved early doors, but it's just hopefully coming back for a sprint, and then me and Ollie will get up there and see what we can do.
Well, we need to win a race. We haven't won a proper race yet, and we're falling behind in this Tour of Britain thing, so that's the main thing. We need to get up there and make sure we're doing it.
It's an interesting year because there's not necessarily someone who you could say he'll win the bike race, so I think previous years it's come down to a bunch sprint, and I think today it can go a lot of ways, so could see a group of 20 coming to the finish, a group of 40, or it could be just a mass bunch sprint, but yeah, we've got riders that can cover everything, I feel.
So all set to go with the 7th round of the National Road Series, the Stockton Grand Prix. It's the 9th edition of this event, and it's already established itself as one of the must-win events for any rider. They really want to add this to their Palmares if they possibly can. A flag in and we're underway. Total of 178.5 kilometres for the riders today. It's a relatively flat circuit in comparison with some of the race circuits that they've had of late in the opening laps, but that's not going to prevent the early attacks. Indeed, it's going to encourage them, as the group's starting to split already, and we've got John Archibald through at the front. No surprise to see the Ribble Pro Cycling man showing lots of ambition, wants to get in the early move, and it's his fellow Scot Joan Alley of Team Inspired who's joined him up front.
Looks like there's one of the St Piran riders in there as well, who's currently just having a look around to see whether the field is coming or not, and this circuit really lends itself for very, very attacking riding.
Yeah, the weather's absolutely perfect today. Perfect conditions for racing, and as you say, it's a rolling circuit which just encourages so many more riders to try their luck out of the bunch. And well, John Archibald is not hanging around here. He's steaming ahead. He's got his skates on, and he's really testing Joan Alley just to stay in the wheel. Both riders down at the bottom of the block.
Yeah, definitely. Archibald has been in great form and really showing that he's got good legs even out on the road, not just on the track. And it's the fastest man on sea level over the 4 kilometre pursuit, so he's certainly got some power.
Yeah, string of fantastic performances on track and road indeed over recent times. 8 laps of the big circuit of 13.5 kilometres remaining out in the country circuit, as they say, before they head back in for the local laps to conclude. Long way before we get to that, and Archibald and Nally have been joined by a select group up front. A little bit of daylight between themselves and the peloton.
Yeah, that definitely is, and I think this is looking like a very, very strong group, and a group that should be willing to work with each other. The composition is just right with the right riders in there. Is that Steve Lampier as well, I think, for St Piran?
Yeah, some very experienced, very strong riders who've made it in here. James Fouché as well, just showing the New Zealand national champions jersey for Team Wiggins. And this is a group of power and strength, including from St. Piran. It's Joe Evans, who's managed to infiltrate this group. A couple of St. Piran jerseys in there, a couple of Canyon DHB. Vitas Pro Cycling well represented, as indeed Team Wiggins, as they flash through picture. It's a large group, 19 riders up front.
Well, it looked like one of the Wales Cycling Academies as well, or Racing Academies riders in there. I think that was Will Roberts.
Yeah, good to see Will Roberts making it in here, but the man from Wales has box full of neutrals there. Looks like he's struggling a little bit, looking for service.
Yeah, not good for him to get that kind of mechanical when you have made the front selection, and unfortunately it's nothing you can do about it. He's just going to have to wait for his team car here now, and unfortunately depending on the gap itself, the team cars don't seem to have made it up just yet.
Yeah, it's a big split there. 19 riders becomes 18, and I don't think they're going to be hanging around for Will Roberts, because everyone is contributing. Frederick Scheschke from the Vitas Pro Cycling squad at the back, as the bottles are dispensed with. Rob Scott, 20-year-old Team Wiggins rider, has Gabe's colleague, his teammate, for company as they come through the feed zone. Steve Lampier in there for the St. Piran squad. Alex Coleman's made it in. Matt Holmes, we haven't mentioned him, but the white jersey of the leader of the series is in the middle of the group, just going to close that gap. And Matt Holmes has been attentive to everything that's been happening so far.
Well, 18 riders, that's a very big group for to let go up the road like this, and I wonder whether everyone in here is going to be happy, and also whether the peloton is going to be happy about this kind of a group going up the road. So much at stake in these races now at the later end of the season.
This is Reece Wood at the back of the group, who is among this selection that has formed at the front, one of several riders with the Wood surname who've made it into the big move today. The peloton behind, led by Madison Genesis, and they've got a little bit of work to do. They do, of course, have their teammate Matt Holmes, the series leader, represented in the group up front, but clearly they feel they'd like to have a little bit more representation in there. Yeah,
I was expecting to see a team taking up the chase here. Peloton has that 15 seconds there, but Madison Genesis clearly didn't like the composition of that 18-man group that's gone up the road, and I think they'll be looking to put a rider in here as well.
Well, that group of 19 almost retained by the peloton, and that has led to a split as they've cleared out a little bit of dead wood, and those with ambition and indeed the legs to match it have forged clear. And now we've got a really charging effort with Rob Scott on the front for Team Wiggins. John Archibald never far from the front, is he? And he has a little look over his shoulder as he does another big turn and presents the win to Reece Wood.
Well, for Archibald, this is kind of his perfect circuit, really. Just these big sort of rolling roads, and it lends itself to good aerodynamics, a lot of horsepower, and he's clearly looking on form today.
Yeah, Adam Canway struggling to just stay in the wheels at the back of the group there as Rob Scott joined in at the back. This is the selection up front. Archibald through to take position on the front. Rob Scott is replaced, and then we've got Reece Wood who's jogging along. What a great job that Reece Wood is doing to get in here, but also the Zappi's Racing Team man is making a big contribution. Alex Coleman as well, just 20 years of age, and he's got the strength to be in some exalted company, including Steve Lampier.
Yeah, Lampier certainly a rider who's been in this situation on a number of occasions before, is such a seasoned rider in the British peloton by now.
Caught sight of Reece Howells as well from the Richardson's Trek squad as the gap is starting to stretch out. Matt Holmes at the back of the group here will be satisfied with this. There are plenty of different teams represented and not too many riders that are a threat to his position at the head of the overall standings. So the man from Madison Genesis in the centre of your picture, just picking up the position on the front, powering along, and he'll be satisfied at the moment.
Yeah, I think he should be satisfied in getting into this one, but you know, it's a strong group, but I think there's going to be a lot of attacking coming from this one, because if we're looking at the composition of riders, there's one rider from pretty much every team, and that means that no one's really going to feel confident and comfortable with leaving this for a sprint, or leaving it to come down to the final few kilometres to then battle it out. So I think we're going to see this potentially splitting up again.
Yeah, some teams will be happy, but not every team. John Archibald has shown himself to be a tower of strength so far. Matt Holmes is getting the drink in as well he might. This is hot work out there in the Stockton Grand Prix. Surfing through on the wheels through to the front of the group is Archibald, and picking it up and just closing, keeping it all knitted together nicely is the imposing figure of Reece Howells, number 76 there, the 31-year-old ex-Team Wiggins rider. Also in this group and contributing well, Ross Lamb, SwiftCarbon Pro Cycling, 23-year-old rider, has made it in. 4 laps of this 13.5 kilometre circuit remaining before they head back to town.
This looks like Archibald has just made an attack to go clear on his own.
Well, what about John Archibald? The irrepressible John Archibald. There's almost 100 kilometres left in this bike race, but Archibald is not afraid to have a go. Clearly feels that group is just a little bit big and perhaps a little bit unwieldy. So it's a group of 9 that are chasing Archibald behind. Matt Holmes is in there, Lamb, Scott, and Kenway, Howells, Lampier, Wood, Nally, all working well, but finding themselves distanced by the flying Scotsman that is John Archibald.
Well, he definitely is flying at the moment, but I think he also felt that he wasn't quite getting everything out of the group, and some of the riders were just not going hard enough.
This is my first season here, and I think after a couple of years with Wiggins, it was just a natural sort of path. I think Shez has been around for a long time, and she obviously knows what she's doing, so to be led by her is a bit of a privilege.
It's just one run in a really honest, tough way. It's down to earth. Talk a lot to Shez about what our future plans are and what we want to do, and she helps us. But yeah, we all talk to each other. We know what our strengths and our weaknesses are. We all help each other.
I think it's quite a fresh start this year, pretty much, for everyone. It's been quite good, and everyone's kind of learning off each other.
Every year, everyone looks at like the big races. So, you know, like Tour of Britain and that, they're like the biggest races that we do. They're the races that I think we all want to perform well in, and they're the races, if you do perform well in, you know, they kind of provide that step up to like the next level.
Like all the riders are really stepped up, so it's great being around them and racing with them.
Well, Vitas Pro Cycling are represented in the group that are chasing this man. It's John Archibald, who is hunkered down low over the bars. He's still got just a smidgen under 90 kilometres of racing remaining, but clearly the 28-year-old Scotsman loves to be out front. An advantage now stretched out over half a minute, and Reece Howells and company, including the man from Vitas Pro Cycling, Adam Kenway, have a bit of work to do.
Yeah, they do have quite a bit of work to do, and looking like they're losing time as they go along here, up to 40 seconds now. You know, they really need to start working a bit more than this if they want to catch someone like Archibald, because once he finds that ability to sit on his own and put the power in, he knows no one's got in his draft, then he's in time trial mode, which he does best.
Yeah, no one does it as well as that. Kenway at the back is just looking for his moment to move back up on the wheel. It's Steve Lampier, the oldest man in this breakaway group at 35 years of age, the St. Piran man, just in front of Kenway. Down towards the back, we picked out Rob Scott from Team Wiggins, as it's time for some extra sustenance for your rider out front. The 28-year-old Scott, that is John Archibald, second in the National Time Trial Championships just a few weeks ago, so clearly he's not afraid to ride solo. He has, of course, won the individual pursuit title on the track earlier on this year, team pursuit titleist as well in the United Kingdom Championships. And of course, John Archibald is a multi-medalist at world and Commonwealth level. There's so many different gongs that he's managed to achieve. What about the Stockton Grand Prix for today? Is anyone able to get across to him? That's presumably the ambition for this group. Well,
it has to be, and you know, they keep on losing time. Is up to a minute and 42 seconds now, and I think they really need to start looking at start racing really, and get themselves organised, because the way this is looking right now, everyone is sort of sitting there thinking, are we actually going to catch him? And with that, they're not really putting 100% in. So put all the work to catch Archibald, and then start thinking about racing.
Well, they're starting to leak a little bit of time to this man. Archibald's already 2.5 minutes clear of the 9 that are chasing, and they are more than 4.25 minutes back from the peloton. Are starting to close the gap to the chasers, and as you say, Magnus, a little bit of work to do. The large laps have been completed, heading back into town now, 5 kilometres back to the local circuits of just a smidgen over 6.5 kilometres, and they've got 6 of those to do.
Yeah, this local circuit is quite fast, quite open, but it lends itself well to a bunch who are really charging. You can see the riders as well a little bit easier on that circuit. So the fact that the bunch are starting to look like they're interested here now, they want to bring this back. I think there's 1 or 2 teams who are probably not too happy about the outcome of this right now.
28-year-old Ross Lamb was at the front there as he made way for the rest to race through. 3.5 minute advantage as we cross the line. 5 laps of this 6.5 kilometre circuit remaining for John Archibald. It's a long way to go. The gap is dwindling, but it's still a healthy lead.
Yeah, it is definitely a healthy lead, and you know, at this moment in time, you definitely put your money on Archibald managing to hold on to this one. But as you see, when you got a bunch who are starting to get interested, and you got a team who's taking charge, usually you find 1 or 2 other teams then throwing a rider or 2 into the mix of it, and all of a sudden you got a group of 8 or 10 riders really putting the pressure on in the peloton. And when you can see the riders on the opposite side of the road like this, it just kind of fuels that chase as well. So I don't think it's far from over just yet, but it's looking good for Archibald.
Looking good for Archibald, but what about the group that are chasing him? Alex Coleman at the back, just behind Reece Wood. What are their chances of hanging on clear? There's about 500 metres, maybe just a little bit less, between this group and the chasing peloton, and that peloton is starting to get moving. Yeah, they are, and it also depends on who's riding in the peloton, because if they got riders up in this group here now, but they're not particularly happy with it, then all of a sudden you're going to get riders sitting on, and I think we're just about to see the junction being made here between the peloton and our 9-man group. Well, just one rider out front now, racing solo. Is it to glory? John Archibald clear of this charging peloton, and the riders from Team Wiggins much in evidence, close to the front of the field. They're in a position to qualify for the Tour of Britain later this season, but they've yet to confirm that spot, and they know that there are points on offer. They want to hoover up as many riders and make sure that they can steam through to the line to take the maximum opportunity for them. And it's such an important selection that for the Tour of Britain, for all of the teams that are in this race here today. So to see Wiggins up there racing and really putting the pressure on, I'm not too surprised, to be honest with you. And obviously they got someone like Tom Pidcock who can do just about anything, but he's definitely fast enough as well in the sprint, I think. Big turn there from James Fouché, the Team Wiggins rider. He is the New Zealand elite and under-23 national road race titleist. He's also the under-23 time trial champion. He's giving us a demonstration of the watts that secured those titles as he rides through and up this little drag in pursuit of another man who's good against the watch. It is Archibald still clear of the field, but the form's starting to go a little bit. Doesn't look quite as comfortable on the bike. He doesn't look comfortable at all at the moment. He's put everything into this, and now he needs to take all of the risks around these corners as well to keep that speed high. 2 kilometers to go. It's all or nothing right now. Well, he's all over the bike. Every piece of focus, every fibre of his being is being focused on trying to get what little strength he has left into the pedals. His arms are straight now, his head is up, his shoulders are rocking. He's absolutely in agony at this point. But what a ride it's been by John Archibald. Surely he's done enough with an advantage of north of a minute going into the final kilometres. But he knows that he cannot afford to loosen the grip on this race as he sees the peloton and those riders chasing behind. Yeah, start heading down towards the final kilometre here now, and really put in everything he's got into it. But you can see the shape on the bike. He's starting to lose some of that sort of good aerodynamic position that he always has on the bike. Oh, he's in a world of pain and suffering under the banner that indicates just 1 kilometre of pain left, and the glory will be his as John Archibald races solo. But here come the peloton behind, charging down through towards that final bend that comes with 500 metres remaining, as Archibald gets the news from the commissar that tells him that the bunch are travelling at a rate of knots. And this is a bit of a cliffhanger, because they're coming with a late great push.
Yeah, they certainly are, and I think once Archibald makes this U-turn here now around the central reservation, he will see where the bunch is, and I think there will be a certain amount of panic in his head going on, and there you see it's only a question of 100 metres between them right now.
Oh, it's incredibly close. Inside 500 metres to go now for John Archibald. He's all over that bike like a cheap suit, but can he possibly sustain the effort through to the line? He's looking for a bigger gear on the bike, but has he got the strength left as the motorcycles race through to the finish line? He's approaching the finishing barriers. Has he got enough in hand? He's frantic as he looks over his shoulder. It's incredibly tight, but surely he's done enough. He's been out front for almost 100 kilometres on his own, and it's going to come down to an advantage of less than 100 metres. But it's Archibald that gets the win in Stockton. A famous win, a glorious victory, as Matt Bostock leads the peloton in for second ahead of Tom Pidcock, but they didn't get there in time. Beautiful success for Archibald. He hangs on, and look at what that means to him.
What a ride by Archibald, and interesting to see the sprint here as well, with Tom Pidcock just making it up there into third, with Matt Bostock taking the win in the bunch sprint.
So John Archibald hangs on for a famous victory, with Matt Bostock leading the peloton in just ahead of Tom Pidcock.
We wanted someone in the break. Because Tipper was looking for the sprint finish. I think he did. I don't know where he came in the end, but he was up there for sure. But the idea was to sit on the brake and just make sure that we didn't have to work to pull it in. And I got into the brake, and it's kind of standard where the brake never really fully commits. And I was just in the mood to commit, and just with about 80k in, 100k to go, I just rolled off the front, and not really intentionally. I thought maybe a couple might hit across, and we'll get a good block of riders going, just because the group's too big. It wasn't really happening. But nobody was interested, didn't come with me. The gap started to go out, and I was kind of enjoying it for the first 20, 30k, and then after that I started to think, this is a long way. And when I hit the finishing circuits, it really did.
So the standings after round 7, no change at the top, with Matt Holmes holding that narrow advantage over James Shaw and Rory Townsend. And in the teams classification, Canyon DHB are in the top spot ahead of Madison Genesis, SwiftCarbon Pro Cycling and Team Wiggins Lacole. And in the race for Tour of Britain selection, it's the same top 4 teams leading the charge. What a great day of racing here at the Stockton Grand Prix, and what a superb win for John Archibald. The next round is on Sunday 28th of July at the South Coast Classic, a new race to the series. Come and join us at the roadside, or join us for the highlights. To stay in touch with the HSBC UK National Road Series and everything else in the world of cycling, go to britishcycling.org.uk, and the hashtag is National Road Series. Bye for now, and see you next time.